guest. His name is Grant. Hi, Grant.
What's up, Aurora? How's everyone doing?
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining me again. And Grant, thank you so much for joining me as my second guest on this live stream.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Appreciate the invite.
I actually met Grant on LinkedIn, guys.
Hmm.
He is so supportive of my live stream, and we have very similar experiences that we'll talk about a little bit later. But right now, I just want to get right into it and say hi, Grant. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am an entrepreneur and an online business owner. I've built an online business where I work one-to-one with Korean business professionals, helping them improve their English communication in international workplaces, stand out to recruiters, and ultimately level up their careers to get opportunities that they deserve. And this was originally inspired from my time living in Korea. I lived in Korea from 2016 to 2018 in Songnam and then in Gangnam. And I would say by far the best part of life in Korea as a foreigner is the people you get to meet. I was so welcomed by everyone I met there. People were incredibly kind, incredibly hardworking, very passionate, and a lot of them were stuck in jobs that were not great. They were working really long hours. Aurora, I'm sure you've seen this. There's a lot of pressure. They don't have much negotiating power. They're forced to work unpaid overtime, and it's really unfortunate. And I think they deserve better. And I would say really the core of my business and my whole purpose is that I strongly believe that every hardworking professional deserves a career where they feel valued. And so over the past 3 years, I've worked with close to 200 different Koreans one to one in 28 industries and 12 countries, helping them get massive salary increases, make great impressions on their bosses, and stand out to international companies and get great job offers. So, yeah, I love what I do, and I'm happy to be here sharing a little bit about my experience living in Korea and some of the differences in work culture between the US and Korea.
That's amazing. You help people, which is you help people in the best way possible, growing themselves, getting raises in their salary, becoming
Mhm,
more
mhm.
well-rounded employees. I think that's so amazing. Can I just ask how long you've been doing this?
Totally. Yeah. So I started my business in March of 2020 after working at one of Gangnam's business English academies. So I did have some
Mm-hmm.
experience before going out on my own, but I started in March 2020, just
Mm-hmm.
focused on English. So I
Mm-hmm.
helped people write better emails, give better work presentations, fix their speaking mistakes. But I think you can relate to this, Aurora. The more I helped people, the more clients I worked with, the more I realized that for a lot of people, what's holding them back isn't necessarily their English. It's it's maybe their lack of understanding of different business cultures, their
Mm-hmm.
lack of being proactive in the workplace, hesitance to speak up. And then when it comes to job searches, it's all about showing your value.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a perfectly written resume with zero grammar mistakes, but if it's not compelling, if it doesn't show the hiring manager what they want to see, it's still a bad resume. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say I did pure English for like 2.5 years. And for the last year, I've really focused more on career development, helping people optimize their LinkedIn profiles, helping them prepare for job interviews, answering questions in a way that isn't just correct English, but also really proves their passion and proves why they're a great fit for the role they're applying for. Because that's what will actually get them where they want to go in their careers.
I actually saw that you went live with another one of our LinkedIn mutual followers a
Yeah.
few weeks ago. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Um, I think you did a little bit about LinkedIn profile optimizing and
Yes.
that
Yes.
as well. Maybe
Mhm.
do you have like some tips, maybe like 3 to 5 ultimate tips, things that they should always remember to put on their LinkedIns or things that they shouldn't. Maybe 3 to
Oh,
5?
man. You are putting me on the spot right now. Okay. Not just 1, I need 3 to 5 tips. Okay. I'll shoot for 3. So, in the video or in the live webinar I gave, I talked about 3 really common profile writing mistakes. And the first one is just describing yourself. A lot of
Mhm.
people do this in their profile headline, in their about section. They say something like, "I'm a passionate and highly skilled sales professional," or
I've seen that.
or "I'm a dedicated, hardworking UX designer." And the problem with that is anyone can say that. Anybody can say they're passionate, they're dedicated, they're motivated, and also there's no real proof behind it. And so, what I always emphasize with people and what we really work on with my clients is having them share beliefs and share achievements and share insight they have on their industry that proves they're passionate, they're motivated, they're highly skilled,
Mhm.
instead of just them saying it. Like, if you go
Okay.
back and listen to the beginning of this recording, I talk about the importance of showing your value in interviews. I talk about how I've worked with close to 200 people. That is more effective in building my authority than if we started this call and I said, "Hi, everyone. I'm a passionate coach."
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
so I would say that's one thing that I highly recommend. Second, I would say people focus on just their experience. A lot of people say, "I have 10 years of experience in this industry," or maybe, "I have experience creating marketing campaigns and managing KPIs and doing this." It's all
Mhm.
about it's just listing the stuff they've done or the length of time they've done it, not necessarily things that prove they did it well.
Mhm.
And so something that I really highlight for people and with all the clients I work it with, as we write their profile, as we write their resume, it's not about the length of time you've been in your career. It's about what you've accomplished during that time, because that's ultimately what companies are interested in. So something I do with my clients is we define what I call their career highlights, which
Mhm.
are a series of the best accomplishments they've done throughout their whole career. And their career highlights go into their resume, go into their LinkedIn profile, and these are all measurable, they're objective. It's not just their opinion about themselves, and that is much more effective than just saying you have 4 years of experience in design.
Mhm.
And then the last one I would say is if you are open to work, you have to give people a reason to hire you. I see
Mhm.
a I mean, you're in recruiting. I'm sure you've seen this before where there's the open to work banner on, and maybe they've made the public post saying, "I'm open to work. Here are the roles I want. Please connect me with people." But you go to their
Mhm.
profile and there's just nothing. They
Mhm.
don't have anything in their work experience. They don't even have an about section written. There's nothing there that shows they would be a good person to hire.
Mhm.
And I feel for people stuck in those situations because it can't be fun. I'm sure that they've been applying to tons of roles and not hearing back. I imagine they've been waiting for weeks, growing more stressed, and they probably aren't aware of what they need to do. But yeah, so if you're ever open to work, you can turn on that banner, you can make the post saying you're open to work, but if you don't give people a reason to hire you with a well-written profile and proactive networking, it's not gonna help.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, I what do you think about the, I don't know how to say this, but, like, emotional open to work posts? I've seen a lot of them.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, I for me, whether it's an open to work or open to hire, I always try to share it because, the
mhm.
more exposure, the better for both of them.
Sure.
Um, the emotional open to work posts, sometimes they get me and I'm like, "Someone please find them a job."
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Whoever it is. I really like that, whether it's emotional or whatever it is. When they post about their previous experience where they were working, and then they talk about, what kind of things that they did and like almost a story so that people can relate to
mhm,
it.
mhm,
Because I
mhm,
always find myself actually reading the post, however long it is, if it has
mhm.
anything to do with me at all. If it's the slightest amount relatable, I find myself reading it and
Mhm,
sharing it.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
think I yeah, what do you think about that?
about the longer emotional posts.
Yeah.
I think it's totally fine, and I completely agree with you. If you tell it in, like, a story format and talk about some of the challenges you've had, make them relatable to other people, yeah, it can tug at your heartstrings, and I think that can definitely be effective for exposure. Because there have been so many of those posts that have like 3,000 reactions, 400 comments, all these
Mhm,
shares. That is a great way to get yourself out there. But kind of going back to what I said earlier, if it's just the emotional post and nothing else, you'll get lots of
mhm,
likes, but you probably won't get any job offers from that.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I think it's okay to be vulnerable. You can totally share the challenges you've been going through as a job seeker, but don't forget that the ultimate reason a company is going to hire you is because of the value that you'll add to their organization. So
mhm,
give that emotional story, get people invested in who you are, and then near the end of the post, to any companies looking for a product manager, here's what I offer. And then like 4 bullet points of your best
mhm,
accomplishments. End with that so it's not just this story of desperation. It's it's a story of desperation from a person who can actually help your organization.
mhm. So you're basically skill marketing yourself to people out there,
Mhm,
showing
mhm,
them what you have to offer. Yes. Think that's
mhm,
all great advice. I'm pretty sure somebody who stopped by our repost is gonna read that and go make some edits on their LinkedIn profile.
mhm, mhm.
You mentioned that you worked in Korea.
Totally, yeah.
Is that ever you've worked in Korea anywhere else abroad?
My abroad experience has been pretty limited. So, I moved to Korea when I was 24, and the day
Mhm.
I stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport was the first time in my life I was ever not in the United States.
Why did you choose Korea to be your
Yeah,
first
that does kinda seem like
wow.
a random decision, right? So it's kind of ironic that I guide people in their careers now because when I was graduating college, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do.
Mhm,
And I've grown up in Kansas in a relatively small town, and basically everyone that graduates from the small college I went to, they move to the only big city that's close, which is Kansas City, and they get a business job. And so I was pretty directionless, and I felt like, okay, my options are I can just go and get some generic like business development job in Kansas City, or I can teach English abroad. And I thought the second option sounded a little bit more interesting. So I did some research on various countries, and for entry level English teachers, the best markets are generally Korea and Japan. And
mhm,
so I kind of narrowed it down to those countries. And one of my family friends, so it's like my mom's best friend's daughter, she lived and worked in Busan for a year and a half and loved it. And she said, "Oh, you got to go to Korea." So that was what ultimately led to me moving to Songnam in May of 2016.
mhm. And did you love it?
I did. Yes. Yes.
I
Oh,
actually
go ahead.
also taught in oh, sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say I loved the people, I loved the culture. In terms of career development for me that it was a little bit limited there, which is one of the reasons I left. But yeah, in terms of like the people I met, the the nightlife, the stuff to do in the city, oh, it was awesome. I would totally go back if I could. Yeah.
Really? You go back. what I was trying to say was your experience and my experience probably were a little bit different. It's a
Sure,
little
sure.
surprising, but I feel like people that come to teach English in Korea, it's either complete foreigners, native English speakers, and then there's
Mhm,
people like me who
mhm,
look Korean,
mhm.
look Asian at least, and but don't really speak the language.
Sure, sure.
So, Grant, they would look at you and they obviously they're not gonna think you speak fluent Korean, but they're
Of
gonna
course.
look at me and they're
Yes,
gonna think
yes.
I think that's where the difference came to play. Um,
Mhm,
I don't know, almost like uh not racism, but they are taken aback when they talk to me and I don't completely understand what they're saying. And then they look at me and they'll be
mhm,
like,
mhm,
how come you don't know how to speak Korean, but you look fully Korean? And then I also
mhm,
get stares when I'm like reading a book. And I'm gonna be reading a book in English. It's gonna have like an English title, and then
mhm.
they stare at me because they're like, it does she is she Korean and she's reading this English book or
Mm.
is this her? Yeah. Um, so I think the way that they would look at you and then the way that they look at me, um, is much, much different.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. I would say there's a lot of social pressure and social expectations that did not apply to me, that apply to people in Korea as well as people not from Korea, but who everyone assumes is Korean.
Yeah. So when I have other friends that came to visit,
Mhm.
um, they always said, "Oh my gosh, everyone is so embracing in Korea." And then I'm like, "Really?"
Mhm, mhm.
Really? Yeah. It's a little different. You wouldn't think so because you would think that they would be more embracing to people that look like me, but it was I think it's which I understand, but it was a little bit different, which is one of my biggest reasons I left actually. Because I didn't know like
Mm,
how much do I have to deal with this in the beginning when I also came to teach Korean. That's the reason why I left. But
mm.
you said that you left because you didn't think that there was going to be much advance in your career teaching English there. Is that how you linked it to what you're doing now?
Yes, yes. So, as I was working at a business academy in Gangnam, I was doing quite well. I was one of, if not the most popular instructors at the whole academy, but, I think the company kind of saw me as just a way to make as much money as possible, as opposed to, a long-term asset that could grow with the business because they completely filled my schedule. And for the last several months of me working there, I was teaching at least 35 classes every single week. And if I was doing that while making a great salary and had good benefits, that would be awesome. But, I was making barely anything compared to what I could do independently. And I
Mhm.
remember one of the light bulb moments for me was when I was looking at how much the students were paying for the classes and then comparing that to how much I was making and feeling like if I can just find a way to attract my own students and cut out this middleman that's taking like 70% of the revenue, then not only will I be able to do something I love, but I'll be able to make a decent living doing it. And so that was one of my big motivations, that to get paid what I know I'm worth and also to progress and grow. Because if I stayed working at those academies in Gangnam, I could produce amazing results for 10 years, and 10 years from now, I'd be in the exact same position I was then. There wouldn't be
Mhm.
any
Mhm.
promotions, any movement up. And I've talked to so many Koreans who have done a lot of business academy classes before working with me, and they say it just wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. They had this amazing marketing, these big promises, but the teacher didn't really understand my industry. They weren't fully invested in working with me. And I think there are a lot of people that come to Korea just to travel and party, and the English teaching job is like their second or third priority. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of low quality instruction in Korea. But also, a lot of the teachers are just overwhelmed. They are severely underpaid. They probably have a demanding Hagwon boss. It's a stressful work environment, and they're not in a position where they're really able to give you the high quality experience you deserve. So that's another one of the reasons I got out, because I knew I could provide a much better experience with higher growth potential for myself if I was working with my own students independently. And it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I don't care what happens in my life, Aurora, I would never go back to working at an English academy.
Um, I completely agree. Again, I have similar experience teaching English in Korea. I also too, I was in Gangnam. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
we are underpaid, and I, similar as you, they saw me as an opportunity to say, they market with us, and they say, for
Yes.
someone like me, they're like, she is a Korean American, so she speaks Korean, but she speaks fluent English, and at the same time she's also teaching herself Korean. So, what better teacher is there out there where she speaks both languages,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
she's going to be improving her language along with your children. She knows the best way to teach her students a language.
mhm,
um,
mhm.
and they use that. I was doing, I think the schedules are also very similar. You go in at like 1 p.m. to your first class, and you don't get out until like 10, but you don't really go home until after 10. That was my schedule.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and I get maybe 2 minutes in between each class,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Was that, yeah. So that's my day.
Mhm, mhm. You'd often
Yeah.
like for me, I for the last, like, 3 months of so it sounds like you work with kids, I was working with adults, so maybe
Mhm.
some of it was different, but, yeah, for the last few months of me working there, almost every night I would have to, at home, unpaid, prepare the curriculum for the next day because my work hours were so full, and
Mhm.
I was overwhelmed, but at the same time, I was invested in helping my clients. I cared about the students. I loved working with them. I just did not like the business environment. And so my sense of pride and my motivation to help them, I couldn't give them a bad experience. So
Mhm.
as a result, I would make sure we spent the entire time teaching, answer all their questions, prepare something customized for them. And so, yeah, it now I realize that like I can do that on my own without the academy over me, and it's so much better.
Um, so you've changed it into something that is beneficial for yourself as well right now. You said you're doing career coaching.
Mhm.
Um, what is the best part about working with Koreans and doing what you do at the moment?
I would say the best moment for me is when I get those messages from people that say, "I got the job offer," or "The interview went great," or when I have a follow-up call with them 3 months after they've started a new job, and I just see how happy they are, how much their life
Mhm.
has changed. That was one of the biggest reasons that I moved into the whole career coaching, not just because it was something that maybe was more interesting, maybe I could charge a little bit more money, but it's something that can completely change people's lives in a short amount of time. And that's ultimately my goal with everyone I work with. I want to make the biggest positive impact I can in their career in the shortest amount of time possible.
Mhm.
And if you work with me for 3 months and it's 100% focused on English, your English is going to get better. But if you work with me and it's focused on your job search and you get a job offer in your dream company in America where it's $50,000 more per year than what you were making in Korea, and you can move your whole family there, and now your kids are being raised in an environment that doesn't put pressure on them, and you're working way less, you can work remotely, you're healthier, you're happier, that will change your life so much more. And that's what makes me feel fulfilled are those moments
Mhm.
when I realize just how much better I've made someone's life as a result of us working together for a short time.
Mhm. That's great. It you really have to be happy what you're doing. At the end of the day, you have
Mhm.
to be good at what you're doing, but I really think you need to be happy doing what you're doing, and it seems like
Totally.
you yeah, you're gifting them so much more happiness. Is there anything that you can say to our audience today? Give them a little bit advice. I know they need to pay, they need to subscribe, but if there's anything that you could tell our mostly Korean American audience today, something that they can do to improve what they're doing at the moment to find that little bit of happiness, what would that be?
Okay, so, like, in terms of their careers then?
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, sure, sure. I'll give 2 tips. So,
Okay.
number 1, I would say network and keep your resume updated and be open to opportunities basically all the time.
Mhm,
I think a lot of people, when it comes to job searching, it's 0 or 100, basically, where they're either doing no networking at all, not thinking about their next career move, or it's like the only thing they're focused on. Maybe they quit their last job, maybe they got laid off and now they got to make something happen now.
mhm,
And when it comes to building relationships, the types of relationships on LinkedIn that could lead to career opportunities, it doesn't happen instantly. It takes time. Like Aurora and I, we've been connected for a couple of months now. If we got connected and then the second day you immediately said, "Grant, I want you to be on my show. I'm scrambling to find people now," I probably would have said no. But,
mhm,
we've liked each other's posts. We've kind of gotten to know each other, seem obviously realized that we have stuff in common. And it's the same thing for job seekers, whether you're reaching out to a
mhm,
recruiter or to someone at your target company. So I would say always be open to new opportunities. And the best time to network as a job seeker is when you do not need a job right now.
mhm,
So that would be my advice. And my second piece of advice is if you want to learn more, I have a ton of free stuff on my website and on my YouTube channel. Like if someone just went through my channel and my website and they looked at all the free stuff I have, that would be worth like that probably would be worth like 15 full coaching sessions. So,
mhm.
yeah, you said like people have to pay. Yes, they would have to pay if they're working with me directly, but I have a lot of good stuff you don't have to pay for.
That's great, and I'm definitely gonna be posting your YouTube channel onto my LinkedIn as well. I
Thank you.
think
That's awesome.
everyone I think everyone can get something out of it. I did look through your YouTube as well. You have so many videos,
Mhm,
so I
mhm. I've
think
been uploading since
mhm.
2019.
Well, yeah, wow, wow. Been there for a while. We actually have a question, and we have a comment. Someone asked if you have any blanket tips for improving resumes and LinkedIn profiles.
Mhm, mhm. We kinda talked about LinkedIn already.
Mhm,
So, for your resume, I think I think a lot of Korean people, maybe they don't realize how international recruiters view resumes. Maybe they write it in a way where it's like someone's gonna slowly, methodically read this entire thing as they evaluate them, and that's not necessarily the case. I have talked to so many people in recruiting and talent acquisition. Since I made this career shift focusing more on resume writing and job searching, I want to make sure I'm providing high quality information. So I've gotten the opinions of tons of different people across many different industries. Even for less popular companies, they're still getting 3 to 400 applications for a majority of their roles. And the recruiter is not going to sit there and slowly read the entire resume. They're going to
mhm,
do a very quick check. They'll probably stare at it for 5 to 10 seconds and put it in a yes or a no pile. They'll probably
mhm,
eliminate at least half, but probably more of the resumes then, just by that quick snapshot. And then they'll get it
mhm,
down to a much smaller stack of resumes that they will review in more detail.
mhm,
So your first objective with your resume is to get past that initial recruiter scan. Get them to, in 10 seconds, see enough from your resume to know that this is at least someone we should consider. And the best way to
Mhm.
do that is to have a really well-written professional summary at the very top of your resume that
Mhm.
gives your career at a glance, your best accomplishments, a summary of everything you've done in your career, the knowledge you have, something that can take a person who doesn't know you at all, who knows nothing about you, and after reading it, in 10 seconds, they know, okay, this person's good at their job. So
Mhm.
start with a really good summary. And if all else is equal, you're going to get a lot more interviews with that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
so
think, yeah.
that would be my resume, my blanket resume tip for everyone.
Thank you so much for your blanket resume tip.
Totally.
Um, I Do you have any questions for me? Because I think we're gonna wrap it up in a little bit now.
Sure, sure, sure. So, yeah, I would love to hear, as someone who has worked in America and worked in Korea, what are some differences you've noticed in the work cultures?
Um, in the work cultures, I think, uh, hmm, the main difference that I have felt is in America, there's a very, very strong boundary between your personal and your work life.
Yes. Mhm,
Uh, during like, even during lunch, that's, like, my time. I've been doing my
mhm,
job for, all morning, now I'm gonna go take my lunch,
mhm, mhm.
refresh, and then get back to my office, get back to work, and then after work hours, people usually just go home, or if you wanna go to
Totally.
happy hour, you'll go to happy hour with, like, your favorite coworkers. In
Mhm.
Korea, there's a very fine line between your personal and your work. And, not just in work, but not just in, yeah, like, work, but I don't know how to really explain it, but it's just very fine. The line is very fine, and,
Mhm.
um, not only do they expect you to be open, to be communicating even after work hours,
Yes.
but they also embrace you like your family. So it's
Yes,
hard
yes.
to say no.
Yes, yes. In
Yeah.
America, your company is not your family.
It's not your family.
Mhm, mhm,
But in Korea, they're so embracing, and, um, in the beginning for me, I was very grateful because I don't have my direct family in Korea. Everyone is back home, is in New York for me.
mhm,
But so I really, my boss, she's so, so caring and embracing, and
mhm.
she wants to make sure I'm always okay, and I have what I have, and I'm, eating all 3 meals throughout my day.
Of course.
I
Did
was
you eat
so
lunch?
grateful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you don't really have that, like, family kind of experience when you're working back in the States, but
true.
here they're like your family, and that
Mhm,
goes
mhm,
well, both pros and cons about it, but for
mhm,
someone like me who didn't have family here when I first came, I really appreciated that.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think for people that really need that sense of community, it can be very
mhm,
helpful. But
mhm.
if you're independent, if you want a job, you wanna do your work, finish your work, and then go home and live your life, the Korean work culture might not be ideal for you.
Yes, I agree completely.
Mhm.
I really do agree with that. Um, yeah, it's hard to find your own community once you reach a certain age and you happen to move somewhere. Even if it's within, like, United States, you're just moving from here, this state to this state.
Mhm,
After a
mhm,
certain age, it's so hard to find a community. So for people like you mentioned, if they're coming to this country and they have relocated and they've never lived here before, they don't have any friends or family, your work culture is gonna be your family and your friends. And
mhm,
you can meet
mhm,
some great people, yeah, in your office as well.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it does have their pros and cons.
Definitely, definitely
Um,
pros and cons. I do
Mhm.
have one additional tip though related to this. This is something that I recommend to every single person who relocates, whether it's a
Mhm.
Korean coming to the US, an American moving to
Mhm.
Korea. I
Mhm.
think everyone who moves to a new country where they don't know anyone should find some sort of activity or group outside of work to be involved with.
Mhm.
When I was in Korea, I wrestled in college and I
Mhm.
started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu about 6 months before coming to Korea. Most of
Mhm.
my best friends in Korea were Koreans I met through the various jiu-jitsu gyms I trained at. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I went on trips with them. They were
Wow.
like my dinner buddies. Yeah, and they were awesome, and it's a great way to meet people because you already have a common interest, have an activity. So, if you like
Mhm.
painting, if you like running, hiking, if you have some sort of activity, find a group that does that because that is gonna be a great way to meet new people, and I
Mhm.
agree, it's great having strong relationships at work, but I think
Mhm.
you don't want 100% of your relationships to be work related. It's good to just
Mhm.
have people outside of work that you're close with.
Mhm. Mhm. I completely agree. Um,
Mhm,
I didn't feel like I was, like, home until I found my
mhm.
community. I joined this, like, organization, little neighborhood group where we just walk our dogs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, and they could not have been more embracing. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
completely agree. Before I found that community, I was just, I actually tried to talk to someone on the subway here, and that really did not go well. They thought
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was they thought I was a creep. So I
Mhm,
got really
mhm.
discouraged, but yeah, I think that is such great advice. You gave such good advice today in general with the resume, the LinkedIn, um, tips for joining a community. I think there is so much that people could have taken out of today's stream.
Awesome, well, yeah, I'm really happy to share all that, and I appreciate the invitation. This was a lot of fun, Aurora.
No problem, and anytime, everyone can if anyone is looking for any sort of advice for career coaching, you guys can always check out Grant's YouTube channel. He said he has videos and videos of advice, um, and feel free to reach out to him on his LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mhm. Alrighty.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for
If
tuning in, everyone. This has been great.
Thank you so much for joining us, Grant. And if no one has, I don't think we are getting any other questions or comments. So I think that
Mhm.
we will wrap up today's session.
Great.
Thank you so much, Grant. And again, everyone, next week again we have another guest. So I'll see you guys all next week.